Alright guys, here it is. We are finally at the end of the Marvel Legends Apocalypse wave, and since there's no packaging for this figure, we are going to jump right into it. So of course, as always, we're going to do articulation first, but if you want to grab this guy for yourself, head on over to Big Bad Toy Store. You're going to have to buy the full wave to get him, but snatch these up because this wave is fantastic. I will put a link down in the description below. But let's get started and take a look at articulation, see how well this guy moves around. Alright, now as far as moving this big guy around, he isn't going to be too far off from what I bet you're thinking. He is slightly hindered in a few ways. I mean, you can kind of tell just from looking at his design and his sculpt and kind of the armor pieces that he has that, yeah, some things are kind of sitting on those joints. So we can swivel the head. He does hit his little collar. You could pop this off if you wanted, but you know, you're probably not going to do that. He can look up just a little bit. He can look down really far, so you can have him staring right into his little collar piece there. Arms can go out. Watch out, it's a Build-A-Figure, so you might pop those arms out. I know I have been when I've been playing around with him. They can swivel all the way around, but of course the cables, the tentacles, whatever these are going to get in the way. They're going to stop you, but they still don't really hinder articulation too much. He's still swinging his arms pretty far around. And then these pads up here, they are hinged a little bit, so you can pop them up, so they do help to afford a little more mobility. We have a bicep swivel. He has a single jointed elbow, and unfortunately that's where the hindrances really hit a snag, because he has these gauntlets, and these are a floating piece, but they really just immediately stop his elbow from articulating. That's as far as he can go. It's really minimal. They also hinder wrist hinges as well, so you can swivel them, you can hinge and move them around, but they don't do a great deal. We have got an ab crunch, so we can go back that far. He can go forward quite a bit, so the crunch works extremely well. We have got a waist twist, of course. The belt sits over top of that, so you might have to move it around a little bit to try to help move him, but he does twist. You can get him to almost do the splits if you really wanted to. He can kick forward, he can kick backwards a little bit. Thigh cut. We have got a double jointed knee, which is pretty good. I mean, he's got these humongous, you know, celestial armor legs down here, so he's got a good joint there for how big his calves are. There is no knee rotation or shin swivel or boot cut, but he does have a fully rotating ankle. So the ankle rotates, the ankle rocks, and then he does have a hinge down here as well. Mine are incredibly tight. They go back better than they go forward, but he does have pretty solid ankle articulation thanks to that that ball down there that allows him to rotate. So he's pretty much, you know, I would say exactly what I expected. I knew going into this that he was going to have armor over top of some of these joints. The big problem, though, is definitely in the elbow articulation just because of these pieces. Now, you could take them off, but he would look kind of goofy that way. Now, in the looks department, in the sculpt and paint, I am, I would say about as happy as I can be. Now, I don't have the Toy Biz Apocalypse, either one of them, to compare against or to, you know, show you what is different here, because they're a night and day difference, and everybody that collects Legends knows that. So I also have no nostalgia towards that figure either. I know it's huge, I know it's pretty cool, but I've never once cared enough to actually get it, and I'm finally owning an Apocalypse figure, and I think he looks pretty spot on. I think that this is very much kind of what I think of when I think of Apocalypse. It's very much accurate to what my depiction of him is, and I think that works out in my favor pretty well. So for the most part, the figure is cast in a metallic marbly style plastic, which I have said before that I really like. I think it gives a nice shimmer, a nice sheen to all of pretty much every part of his body, honestly. Everything is cast in this kind of plastic, and it works out really well. We do have the big A here on his belt with some rivets, and there is paint on the body. We've got some of this gunmetal color that's painted on. For the most part, he's the blue color. We do have some silver paint on the gauntlets, but these are cast in the kind of gunmetal plastic. Same with these. Same with his boots, and we've got the calves that are done the same way, and we've got the silver paint down here as well. So he doesn't have tons and tons of paint on him, at least from the neck down, but he does look really imposing. And I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I know that these hands are shared at the very least. I think these came from the Mandroid, maybe. They're similar to the kind of hands that Colossus has, but they're just not, they're not as small as those. Colossus' hands are bigger. So these are the same kind. They've got that same kind of design here. But I do absolutely love the look of this Build-A-Figure. I unequivocally love it. That's pretty much what it comes down to. In the looks department, I'm very satisfied with it. I think it's fantastic. You know, it maybe isn't as big as some people want, but I know that we're not in that era of Build-A-Figures anymore. We don't get 14, 15, 16 inch tall Build-A-Figures. Apocalypse here is about 8 inches tall. Could he be bigger? Absolutely, but Apocalypse also has shape-changing capabilities, so you can tailor this figure to whatever you want to do. But of course, we do need to talk about this head, because it might just be the best part of this figure. And when I say it might be the best part of this figure, I think it is the best part of this figure for me personally. This very much looks like the Apocalypse I know and love. Maybe that's not the word, but he does have some solid paint apps. He's got that very, very metallic blue lipstick going on. He's got the gritting teeth. He's got the piping that runs down the side of his head. We do have kind of the skull cap up here on the top that's painted well, and he just looks mean and angry and nasty, and it's exactly like what I want Apocalypse to look like. And again, it's just, when I think of Apocalypse, I really do think of this particular look, you know, with the cables that run from the arms down to the belt, with the blue and the black, the big A on his belt. Everything about it just screams Apocalypse to me, and I think this Build-A-Figure really pulls it off very, very well. The only real downside for this figure for me, outside of, you know, his hindrances with the articulation, is that he doesn't come with any accessories. I wish he had a separate hand or an attachment, because we know Apocalypse is capable of changing his shape. He's able to use weapons. And now that I say that, there have been pictures from San Diego Comic-Con, and we may have reveals by the time this goes up, that he is being shown with other hands, like some sort of claw type thing. So who knows, maybe we are getting those. I really wish he had some other attachment. That's really my big downside here, is that he doesn't really have anything else to make him more dynamic than he could be. And you know, just because I can, and we've got them all, before we round out this whole wave, I figure let's talk real quick about the wave in general. And this has got to be, at least for me personally, the best wave of Marvel Legends I have ever purchased. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best ever. I am a humongous X-Men fan, and I haven't been buying Legends in great quantities for a very long time at this point. You know, I really only got back into it when the X-Men figures started to come back in with Hasbro. And just because I can as well, we're going to run through what I think are my favorites. And to be fair, I pretty much unequivocally love this entire wave, so it's mostly which ones do I just like more. The one that's at the bottom isn't necessarily a bad figure, I just like the other figures better. So we're going to start with Gladiator down at the bottom, just because he's pretty basic, but he's still a solid figure. I like Gladiator. Multiple Man is next because he doesn't offer anything better than any of these other figures, but he's still good, and I love that smirking head, although he's not using it right now. Sabretooth is next because I don't like the Hyperion body. I wish he was bigger. Then we've got Magneto because he's not in the classic costume, but still a much better figure than I thought he was going to be. Kind of in the middle is Apocalypse, the Build-A-Figure. He has some limitations, but I mean, come on, look at him. He's just so cool. And then we've got Storm at the third spot because she exceeded my expectations. I really dig pretty much everything about that figure. Then we got Psylocke at number 2 because, like I said, she's my favorite female X-Men figure of all time. And despite the fact that I don't have the purple hair version, I love this figure. I think she's great, and I dig all of her accessories. And then the number 1 is probably an unfair number 1, but I'm a huge Wolverine fan. This is my favorite Wolverine costume, and he looks great. He has fantastic articulation, so that's where he's going to stay. So overall, this is a very, very solid wave. I am very happy with how all of this turned out. Apocalypse is pretty solid. He looks fantastic. I think that's really where he shines, is in the looks department. I really wish he had some accessories, but I guess we'll find out more about that coming soon, or by the time this goes up, it might have already been revealed what's going on with those SDCC pictures. But he is pretty much quintessentially what I think of when I think of Apocalypse in this particular look and style. You know, I don't have the Toy Biz version to compare it against. It doesn't matter to me. It's never mattered to me. I finally have an Apocalypse figure, and he is pretty great. So that's going to do it for this look at the Marvel Legends Apocalypse Build-A-Figure and Wave from Hasbro. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.